The system arrives in the afternoon, while waiting for an elevator to descend, during the 4 seconds it takes for a machine to heat your coffee, or when a conversation lulls in a corporate meeting room. In that precise micro-interval of empty time, an ancient biological defense mechanism triggers. Your brain encounters a small vacuum of stillness. And then, without a single conscious command from your prefrontal cortex, your hand moves. Your fingers unlock the interface. Your eyes stabilize on a calculated stream of glowing vertical pixels. To the observer, this sequence appears entirely personal. It feels like a minor, self-inflicted failure of individual discipline. You tell yourself you are simply checking a notification, looking for an update that you already know does not exist. But within the architectural framework of global infrastructure, this movement was neither spontaneous nor free. It was the synchronized conclusion of a multi-billion-dollar institutional auction. The moment your attention wavered, a silent telemetry script embedded within your smartphone measured the sudden drop in your sensory engagement. It recorded the exact millisecond your interaction speed slowed down. Within less than 100 milliseconds, that data point was packetized, encrypted, and routed through undersea fiber optic lines to an array of industrial server farms operating in low-tax jurisdictions. There, an automated real-time bidding infrastructure put your impending state of boredom up for sale. A technology conglomerate known for minimalist hardware presentation competed against a hedge fund specializing in predictive consumer behavioral arbitrage. Your cognitive vacancy for the next 12 seconds was evaluated, graded based on your historical vulnerability to purchasing items during moments of low willpower, and traded. The transaction cleared before your thumb could even touch the glass screen. You did not open an app because you chose to. You opened it because an institutional incentive structure spent millions of dollars to ensure that absolute human stillness became economically non-viable. To comprehend the scale of this architecture, one must dismantle the foundational propaganda of the modern technological market. For more than a generation, consumer-facing enterprises have maintained a carefully engineered public narrative. They claim they are in the entertainment business. They publish glossy annual reports detailing user satisfaction metrics, community guidelines, and creative optimization software. They want you to believe that their primary structural objective is the maximization of your fulfillment. The underlying corporate ledger reveals a completely divergent reality. When you audit the capital allocation models of these monolithic structures, you discover that customer satisfaction carries no mathematical weight. These systems do not trade in joy, connection, or information. They are shorting human attention spans. The logic is brutally mechanical. In an open market where advertisement inventory is virtually infinite, the only true baseline scarcity is the cognitive capacity of the human organism. There are only 24 hours in a standard chronological day, and a fixed percentage must be allocated to biological maintenance. Therefore, to expand corporate margins, an institution must extract economic value from the dead capital of the human day, the unstructured, quiet spaces between official activities. Can sickness be profitable? Historically, yes. But boredom is far more lucrative. If an interface delivers content that completely satisfies your intellectual curiosity, your brain enters a state of resolution. Your cognitive chemistry stabilizes. You close the device, put it away, and return to physical reality. From an institutional perspective, a satisfied user is a broken pipeline. Total resolution represents a systemic leakage of potential advertising impressions. To prevent this resolution, the infrastructure must design an intentional, highly calculated state of cognitive friction. The objective is not to make you happy. The objective is to keep you perpetually seeking a resolution that remains exactly one scroll out of reach. The system thrives when you are slightly unsatisfied, subtly disoriented, and continuously searching for a digital endpoint that does not exist. The modern technological architecture does not cure your boredom. It institutionalized it to ensure a permanent flow of raw behavioral data. The engineering behind this capture does not rely on advanced computational intelligence alone. It relies on a cold, forensic understanding of human evolutionary vulnerability. Millions of years ago, the human brain developed a pattern recognition system designed to secure survival in hostile environments. In nature, irregular rewards are the most powerful behavioral drivers. A primitive hunter searching for scarce resources cannot predict which bush will contain sustenance. The uncertainty itself triggers a massive release of neurotransmitters, forcing the organism to continue searching, tracking, and moving. Modern interface design did not reinvent human psychology. It simply repurposed our survival mechanics for corporate balance sheets. When you pull down on a vertical feed to refresh the data stream, your physical motion mimics the exact kinetic movement of a vintage mechanical slot machine lever. The design choice is entirely intentional. The software engineers who pioneered these interfaces did not look at educational software for inspiration. They spent months studying the internal behavioral loops developed by casino syndicates operating in desert luxury hubs during the late 20th century. They discovered that if a slot machine pays out a reward every single time the lever is pulled, the user rapidly becomes bored and leaves the terminal. The predictability breaks the psychological tension. But if the rewards are completely random, if the user receives 3 consecutive pages of useless noise, followed by one single piece of highly relevant social validation, the dopamine spike increases by an order of magnitude. The system places you into a state of continuous psychological suspense. You scroll through an uncurated wilderness of digital static, an irrelevant political argument, an outdated video clip, a distant acquaintance's generic photograph. Your brain grows slightly fatigued. But instead of turning away, the pattern-seeking mechanism doubles down. It tells you that the next interaction will bring the validation you crave. You become a laborer on an invisible assembly line, sorting through structural garbage to find a microscopic piece of psychological currency. And while you sort, the system records your gaze latency, calculating the exact threshold of disappointment required to keep you from closing the app entirely. As these behavioral optimization models expanded across the global corporate sphere, the methods of cognitive extraction shifted from passive observation to active, aggressive manipulation. In the early phases of digital media deployment, the algorithms were primarily reactive. They observed your explicit historical preferences. If you spent 4 minutes reading an article on geopolitical real estate trends, the database served you highly correlated content within that specific vertical. By the mid-2020s, that reactive framework was recognized as obsolete. It was far too slow to guarantee the aggressive growth curves demanded by institutional venture capital. The strategy escalated from prediction to manufactured behavior modification. The modern distribution algorithm no longer asks what you want to watch. It calculates what psychological state it needs to inject into your consciousness to maximize your monetary value for the active ad bidding cycle. If the internal market registers that high-income consumers are currently less likely to engage with financial services ads due to a minor shift in market confidence, the algorithm adjusts the visual pacing of your feed. It silently curtails neutral or calming narratives and elevates high-arousal, conflict-driven content. It exposes your brain to a carefully metered sequence of social friction, economic panic, or professional inadequacy. The sudden shift in your internal emotional state is not an organic reaction to the state of the world. It is a manufactured vulnerability. An anxious, insecure, or hyperreactive user is statistically far more prone to impulsive digital consumer behavior. The system intentionally destabilizes your cognitive baseline, generating a precise pocket of psychological discomfort, and then immediately presents a targeted product or service designed to act as a temporary financial cure for that specific discomfort. The institution creates the illness in the first 4 slots of your interface, solely to sell you the synthetic remedy in slot number 5. This structural exploitation is often discussed as if it were a recent anomaly, a strange side effect of the modern Silicon Valley startup culture. This historical view is inaccurate. The architecture of modern attention monetization is simply the modern evolution of an institutional ledger that has remained open for over a century. If you travel back to the early decades of the 20th century, you find the exact same corporate blueprints being drafted by the architects of the mass industrial factory system. When assembly lines were first deployed by industrial conglomerates specializing in automotive assembly, managers encountered a critical logistical bottleneck: human physical fatigue. A laborer working 10 hours on a repetitive steel manufacturing floor inevitably slows down. Their attention drifts, their error rate spike, and production margins decline. To solve this human limitation, industrial consultants introduced the concept of the engineered work break. They did not grant these periods of rest out of philanthropic concern for worker welfare. Internal corporate memos from the era show that these intervals were calculated mathematically to stabilize human physical output. The break was an operational investment designed to drain the lactic acid from the workers' muscles, ensuring they could return to the machine and operate at maximum speed for the remainder of the shift. The modern technological ecosystem has not abandoned this industrial logic. It has simply inverted it to match the requirements of the information age. Today, your office job is no longer a test of physical labor. It is a marathon of cognitive processing. When you sit at a desk managing complex institutional datasets or responding to endless internal messaging streams, your brain burns through its finite reserves of glucose. You reach a point of intellectual exhaustion. The modern technology cartel does not want you to rest. They cannot allow you to enter a state of true, offline recovery. Instead, they provide you with a digital simulation of a break. They present you with a smartphone feed designed to appear effortless, passive, and comforting. But as your eyes track the vertical movement of the screen, your brain is actually performing high-intensity cognitive processing, evaluating social threats, parsing data points, and reacting to subliminal marketing signals. The app is not a sanctuary from your labor. It is the second shift, the industrial system used to let your body rest so you could work for them. The modern digital system uses your exhaustion to turn your rest into their most profitable manufacturing sector. When you begin to view your daily routine through this analytical lens, the illusion of your personal autonomy starts to lose its structural coherence. You realize that the most intimate, private moments of your existence have been mapped, commodified, and cataloged into institutional balance sheets. That sudden, unexplained impulse to check your phone while your child is talking to you, that was not a personal moral failure. That was an automated notification trigger optimized by an A/B testing system that verified exactly which combination of visual symbols would break human parental focus 74% of the time. That deep, ambient sense of professional inadequacy that hits you at 11 o'clock on a Sunday evening, forcing you to scroll through professional networking profiles until your head aches? That was not an organic existential realization. That was the algorithm adjusting your internal status anxieties to prepare you for the high-ticket educational product advertisements scheduled to go live on Monday morning. The system does not require your explicit permission to shape your identity. It requires only your participation. Every single interaction you make with the interface, every second you linger on an image of an asset you cannot afford, every time you speed up your scroll to bypass a topic that frightens you, is an entry written directly into a global ledger of behavioral control. The infrastructure knows your panic thresholds, your financial insecurities, your sexual vulnerabilities, and your social desperation better than any human confidant you will ever possess. It uses this intelligence to construct a highly personalized, invisible digital cage around your consciousness. You think you are exploring an open network of global human knowledge. In reality, you are walking through a highly monitored corridor where every wall has been built to channel your steps toward a specific, predetermined transactional outcome. You are not the driver of the technology. You are the raw material passing through its refining mill. The most sophisticated victory of this institutional architecture is that it operates entirely without physical coercion. Historical empires required standing armies, physical walls, and explicit penal systems to enforce compliance and extract wealth from subject populations. The modern attention economy requires none of these archaic mechanisms. It achieves complete subjection through the voluntary, automated movements of your own fingers. You will leave this documentary, close the screen, and return to your physical environment. You will tell yourself that you are now aware of the mechanism. You will believe that this intellectual realization has granted you a permanent immunity against the architecture of capture. But tomorrow afternoon, the silence will return. You will find yourself standing in an empty space, waiting for a delayed connection, or sitting in a room while the world outside slows down for a brief, unstructured moment. Your brain will register the vacuum of stillness. Your dopamine levels will drop below the baseline threshold calculated by the system. Your hand will register the familiar weight of the device in your pocket. The institutional machinery will be waiting, its servers humming under constant temperature control, its real-time ad bidding infrastructure cleared and ready for the next allocation of your cognitive life. The auction will commence in less than 100 milliseconds. The corporate entities will place their bets on your impending discomfort. The system did not collapse. It adapted. Most people never see the mechanism, only the outcome. The ledger was never cleaned. Another entry already exists.